All right, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you all for joining. Good to see everybody here. I see some new faces, so hello to Bob in California and Remy in Dominican Republic, Marvin from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I'm sorry, I do not know how to pronounce this, but thank you for joining. Good to see everybody here. This, getting a little bit of a late start today, I can talk about exactly what's going on, why, because again, I always try something new on these and it doesn't always work out. So yeah, anyway, as always, if you have any questions for me, drop them in the chat with the letter Q in the front and that'll highlight it on my screen, or the word question, and I'll get to those questions throughout the course of this stream today on a very, very rainy Sunday morning in Portland. And the, yeah, we're going to talk about the YoloBox stand. We're going to talk about live streaming, ATEMs, YoloBoxes, whatever you want to talk about. And we are going to do the giveaway for the Comica microphone that is happening on this stream. So there is still a chance to get your entries in. So there is a link below to do that, and I think it's set to end at like half past the hour. So we will wait till then to draw. But yeah, let's go. Let's see. Drop questions in the chat if you have them. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I did this morning to make that little intro loop, and why I was struggling with it and why we're a little bit late. Yeah, what happened to the map? I don't know. I think computers happened to the map. It looked like everything was running. It looked fine, and then the pins weren't showing up, and I could see that the messages were getting imported, but they just weren't popping up on the map. And all I did was I pushed my button that says refresh the browser, and the browser reloaded, and that's why the countdown timer, the music stopped for a second. I had to restart that, and then they started showing up. And sometimes that's just how it goes with computers. So, yeah. That was your brief intro to today's glitches on the stream, because there's always something. There's really just always something. But thanks for introducing all yourselves again for the chat. And hello, Bailey from Australia. It is extremely late. I'm always sorry about people in that part of the world, because this is just a terrible time for them. But, you know, it's not a good time for everybody. I'm glad you all liked that video. That was a fun little promo video that for the YoloBox stand. There's two parts to that. I can talk a little bit about what's going on there. So last week, I had actually started. I had started on, I think it was Thursday. I had filmed a bunch of 2 weeks ago Thursday. So like the Thursday before last week's stream, I had recorded a bunch of those little clips of the stand, and I put them all in a Google Drive and found somebody on Fiverr who makes those kind of little promo reels, and took a few back and forth. So I didn't get it in time for Sunday's stream, but took a couple back and forths to get the edits that I wanted right. And eventually he delivered the video, and then I was like, yes, I get to put it on the next stream. So I made it the trailer for this, which if you joined this before I was live, you would have seen that video just play once as like the sort of live stream trailer, which is a really cool new feature that YouTube added that I think I like. And I'm looking forward to like trying out more things with it, but that doesn't mean I have to make a lot more short little clips for it. But that worked for that. And then I wanted to put it in the intro of this stream. So for that, I loaded it. I rendered it out to a ProRes file for the Hyperdeck, and I actually added stuff to it. So it wasn't just the clip that I got from the guy on Fiverr. I actually like extended it a little bit because I wanted it to be just a little bit longer for the intro for this stream. So I can actually just like show you the Resolve project. Why not? This is the Resolve project that I was working on right before this, which is, always a good idea to do this stuff at the last possible minute. But this is basically the clip that he had done, and I like spliced in the song to extend it, which is why there's like a gap here. So this is the version with the sound effects that I added, and then this is the regular song. And then I took that clip and I added it to the end. I took 3 more clips, added them to the beginning to just make it a little bit longer. So it's like an extra 5 seconds there, an extra 5 seconds on the end. And I had wanted to do a fade out with alpha transparency so that it would fade. There'd be an alpha channel baked into the video to fade out. And actually let me see if it's in my undo history. I don't know if it is. But no, probably not. It's been too far. I actually had some text overlay here. And it was just like the regular, I think it was just like this one. And this is supposed to be like the little, animated text. And it was like up here somewhere, and it had like the website. Anyway, weirdest thing was happening, and I do not understand what was going on. But every time I would export this video, the end would just be completely messed up. It would just not match what's in Resolve. And I don't even know if I have the trash file left over somewhere, but it was like, if you looked back, I'm trying to see if I have a version of it. No, I think I deleted them all because I was just, it was so weird that oh, maybe it's one of the ones in my trash. No, I think I've emptied my trash because I was trying to like really, oh, here it is. Okay, I found one. So let me show you what's going on with this because I literally have no idea. It makes zero sense. This is the file exported from Resolve. Cool, looks good, right? Great. Everything's going fine. And then all of a sudden, at the end here, what is this? That's not what was in the project. I didn't do a alpha transparency mask. And then this is what it was supposed to look like. For the whole end segment was basically this, like the text up on top on the blue background, and then it would fade out. So it got most of the fade out, and then it stopped the fade out, and it came back at the end. And then this is just coming out of nowhere. So I don't know what's going on, Resolve. That seems like you're just making stuff up for me, which is doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I am on Resolve 17.1.1, so I'm out of date. I need to update. And I'm pretty far out of date. I'm on 17.1, 17.4 is out, so I should definitely update because probably they fixed that bug, whatever that was. But it was just, I made no sense. So I was like scrambling and I took out the text and I tried to export the video again, and then other problems happened, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it was an adventure, and I eventually just decided to take out the text and not deal with the alpha channel, which was not working, and I just let it crossfade. And then at the literal last second, I was like, oh, I should have added the stinger, and I pushed the button manually at the wrong time. So the companion action for this is actually interesting. So this is the button. This is the button for it. And what this does is it, first of all, it presses the stinger button. So there was the little color whoosh from the map to go into the video. And then it actually unmutes my microphone immediately, which I copied my normal start button and then changed it. So loads that clip in because the HyperDeck was playing the little looping one before. So I switch the clip here and then run the play button, single clip playback, so it stops at the end. And then set the camera to preview, set program to HyperDeck so that the clip starts playing, and then wait 25 seconds to hit the auto button to fade to me. So that was the intro sequence. And that part worked great. So Companion was working great. So yeah, that was a fun little adventure. And I, of course, should probably update the software more often and also plan more in advance and maybe not try to export Resolve projects 10 minutes before going live. Ben's Tech Lab says, turn off the render cache to force it to re-render. Yeah, but like the thing is literally that what was in the output had nothing to do with what I had ever put in the video. So it's not even like, I don't even know. It was just super weird. Philip says there were definitely some bugs in the early releases of Resolve 17. Starting with 17.3, it became a lot more stable. I will update that. I don't normally edit videos on this machine, which is why it's out of date, because I'm not normally doing my editing on this one. I normally do it on my laptop. Chris says, are you not always adventurous? Well, sometimes I like things to go well. The volume on the stinger was a lot louder than the intro. The little whoosh, it shouldn't be that much louder. That one I didn't mess with. This is the stinger. No, it's pretty low. It's the music on the track was probably too loud, and then I did actually go into here and drop the volume a little bit, but it had already blasted everybody's ears, so sorry about that. Do you use the free version of DaVinci? I think I don't have my license installed on this one, if I remember correctly. I think this one is the free version, and I don't even remember how to check. I do have a studio license because I got it with the camera, the Pocket 4K. So I have the studio license, and that's on my laptop that I normally edit with. But I feel like I don't actually use most of the features in the studio version. There's like one thing that I used at one point when I hadn't activated the license, and it was like, oh, you need to activate your license. And then I was like, oh yeah, I hadn't installed it on this computer yet. But normally I just use I don't do very fancy stuff in Resolve, in case you can't tell by my videos. Yeah, I thought the speed ramps and glitch effects were a new level of video editing. I mean, I would like to be able to do that quicker and more often, but yeah. How are you doing the stinger? That is a clip on a different hyperdeck that's routed into the whole thing in a different part of the chain. I should just bring up this plan because this is very hard to describe without seeing a picture. This is still, I think, mostly accurate. So, well, this is like the simplified version. So here's the main extreme that I'm using for the show, which most of the things are plugged into, like all my cameras and stuff. This is the HyperDeck Studio Plus that was playing the looping clip at the beginning and the little promo video. So that gets fed into, today it's actually an input 6, but whatever, it goes into the extreme. And then most of the show is mixed in this, right? That's what's got my cameras, my computer screen that you're seeing here. That's all in here. And then this feeds out of the HDMI. I'm not actually streaming from this. This feeds out the HDMI into my television studio HD. And then over here is where I add in the rest. And oh, I actually did just, oh my gosh, I forgot how to delete these. There we go. I swapped these. So the Ultra Studio 4K is what's doing the chat and the little graphics from H2R Graphics. So that little message at the bottom is from H2R Graphics. And then that is doing, where is it? The SDI out 1 and 2. So it's doing the key fill graphics channels into 5 and 6, and that's on downstream key 1. Then on top of that is the HyperDeck Studio Mini on 7 and 8. And this is where I think I actually have only one clip loaded into it. At some point, I'm going to make more of those kinds of things. That's the clip that does this. So that is a little video clip in there, and it has an alpha channel, so it does the keying properly. But then this is on downstream key 2, so that it's over top of everything. So that's on top of the map. The map comes out of here on that web page. And that's that is where the stinger happens, is in the HyperDeck Studio Mini. Way down the chain. So I don't really get to like see that. I don't have a multi-view from this plugged into anything because I don't really, I can route it into one of the screens. Or no, that's not true. It is actually on a screen over there. It is over on that screen. So that's the multi-view from the TV Studio HD and Ultra Studio HyperDeck. So if I show a message on the bottom, you'll see it pop up there. So that's that one. And then if I do the stinger, I don't know if I can actually show that without like, let me go into the Television Studio HD and then let's turn off the downstream key. And now we can run this graphic. So here you can see it on the little multi-view. And if I turn that back on, it'll cover up part of the screen. So that's how that works. And yeah. Should we have a live Resolve update on the stream? Maybe that'll be for the second hour where I can like troubleshoot that and see if the export works again. Okay. Oh, George says, are you using your XR18 today? I am. That is running all of the audio. So that is, it's got the, not all the audio. It's got the microphone here, the other microphone, and it's got my computer routed into it, which is muted right now. But if I wanted to play a video from YouTube into the stream, I can play it from my computer and it'll get routed into that, out into the stream. Oh, I have to update this diagram with my audio now because I made this before I had the audio mixer. So I'll have to add that to this diagram so we can talk about that. Got the resolve question. Let's see. Something strange happened using a Blackmagic ATEM Mini. I turned it on and the picture-in-picture started to flash. Picture-in-picture? Ooh, that's a weird one. That sounds like some sort of message it's trying to tell you. I would email Blackmagic support about that because that's definitely not normal, and they might know if that's like a specific error code that it's talking about. Is the Stinger via macro? Yes, run via macro. Yes, it is. So or not macro actually, no, a companion button. So the companion button for the Stinger is here, and I could have done it with a macro because all it's doing is telling the hyperdeck to play. But I've just sort of moved everything into companion buttons at this point because it's easier to maintain, and it also means that like I can tell other buttons to press this button. So this one just tells it to load that clip. Oh, I do have another clip on there. That's right. When I do the little featured product segment, that's the other clip that plays on that hyperdeck. So it loads that clip and then tells it to play once, and that is how that's the button I use. So if when I, for example, press this button, it also no, that one doesn't run the Stinger. The Start Show runs the Stinger. So this one has a button press action. So it says press button 19. I do wish I could like name these buttons or something because when I move the button, it breaks everything. But in my Start Show button, it will also press the Stinger button, which is a little bit nicer than like repeating the hyperdeck actions there because then if I like add something to the Stinger, it'll also trigger with the rest of the buttons. Oh, hey, Curtis. Good to see you here. Impressive setup. It is growing. It is growing. It's growing slowly, and it's a little bit out of control right now. It's a little bit out of control, I will admit. Andre has a question. ATEM switcher updates do not seem to update the firmware of the Extreme every time. The firmware number doesn't advance the same as the software version. Is that normal? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is normal. Sometimes they do ATEM software updates that are only for the software piece on your computer, and sometimes they do firmware updates to specific devices, like just the ATEM Mini Pro, or just the Extreme, or just the even like just the TV Studio or things like that. So that is normal. I wouldn't worry. Basically, if you open up the ATEM setup app and tell it to go and do the little setup thing, it'll tell you if there's an update available. So, oh, that one doesn't work over the network, but the Extreme does work over the network. And I don't have an update available because that is the latest right now. Thank you, Andre, for the comment about the ATEM YoloBox video. I was getting asked about that a lot, so I thought it was finally time to make that video. And it took a long time. There was a lot to it. As I was writing it out, I kept finding new things I wanted to add to it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be a long one. So, but I hope it was useful because it is an interesting one, and yeah, it was fun. Scott says, was any of that recorded with the ATEM and exported with a project file? So I can talk about how I did that. I have not actually used the I've never used the Resolve project that the ATEM Mini Extreme creates. But what I do now do, which has saved me a ton of time in editing, is I will, at this point, what I do now is I record in the Extreme on all cameras, and I use the ISO recording on for all the angles. I get all the angles set up that I want. I have my computer screen in there. I'll have sometimes I use an iPad to screen share stuff also, and I don't switch any cameras live. I just let it record all of them, and I keep track in my head of, oh, if I want to cut to a close-up of this, then I will address the different camera or hold something up and pause. And it's not filmed like a live show. I have lots of gaps and lots of retakes and stuff in that project, but I try to film the whole thing once through in order. If I want to redo a segment, I try to redo it right then. And then basically what that means in editing is I pull the 8 clips that it creates. I pull those into Resolve and run the multicam sync, and they're all time coded, so they all are perfectly lined up already. Sometimes I have to scoot the video tracks over a little bit to adjust for the different HDMI delays, especially if I'm filming a device like the YoloBox or any other monitor where it's going to introduce even more delays compared to the cameras. So I want my lips to be in sync when the camera is looking at the device. So I'll have to manually adjust that because you can't do it by sound because I don't have any sound coming out of that. So I'll manually adjust the syncs of all the clips in the multicam view. I don't have it on this computer, otherwise I would show you. But that gives me basically a 8-track timeline where everything is perfectly in sync. If I do any color corrections on the individual clips, I do it on the whole clip once. And then I bring it into a timeline and I basically just start cutting and switching cameras. So I'll do cut out all the gaps, cut out the retakes, scrunch it all together, and then do camera switching across the whole thing manually. So I'll go into each little segment, switch camera angles so that it's either cutting between the wide and the narrow or different angles. And I do that once. And then after that's all done, I do a totally separate pass of filming B-roll, just with a handheld camera, doing the B-roll shots. I try to do those in order so that I can just drop them onto the timeline. And that was how I did that video. So I'm trying this so I've been doing this for the last couple of videos, and I'm trying to streamline this so that it's easier to get these videos out, because the more advanced planning I've found, the easier it is to do the editing and all the post-production. Can you load a bunch of clips into Resolve and render them in a way that they can all play on the Hyperdeck? Yeah, totally. So I have been using Resolve to create these little clips that I've got for these bits. So what I do is in Resolve, when I'm ready to export, go into the Deliver tab, and I always export in QuickTime, ProRes, 4444 if I'm doing the alpha channel with the alpha. Sometimes I mess up the frame rate in my project, and I have to go pull this into a new project at the right frame rate. And then this will export the file. If you want to do more than one of it, you would just make a bunch of little projects, different timelines, and export all the individual clips. And until today, I have been having pretty good luck with that method, but I don't know what was going on with Resolve today. Bye, Curtis. Thanks for joining. Thanks for tuning in, even if brief. And Curtis is doing a show, I think, today. He usually starts his an hour after I start mine. I'll just drop a link to his channel in here in case you want to go there after my stream. Yes, here is the link to Curtis's show. Can we see your diagram somewhere? Yeah, I can. I should just share this because I can give it a public link. anyone with the link can view. Here is the link to my simplified studio diagram. Okay, that's in the chat now. And yeah. Controlling Technologies says, I notice you use a teleprompter and write a script. I do. I have been, for the most part, I try to script the videos because when they are scripted, I do better with the first takes, and it is so much easier to edit. And I don't have to like rethink what I was trying to say because it's phrased right because I wrote it down. And it takes practice to not make it sound like I'm reading, but I think I do a pretty good job of that. Nobody has complained that I sound like I'm reading, so that's a good sign. And most of the videos I do are essentially word for word scripted. And I put up on the teleprompter over there. I usually have it on an iPod to control it or an iPad in front of me. And actually, if you look in that ATEM YoloBox video, in some of the wide shots, you can see the teleprompter, the iPad on my desk. And that was airplaying into the teleprompter. And you can see the text scrolling on the screen sometimes. It's subtle, but it is there. And I thought I would just leave it in as an Easter egg. And yeah, it makes the editing so much faster. So much faster. This is turning into like behind the scenes of this YouTube channel. I hope this is interesting to people. Oh, I almost forgot. I meant to give you more time to enter the giveaway. Let me see if I can restart it because I didn't want it to end without giving you a chance to jump in. Let's see if I can give it another 7 minutes. Is this going to work? Okay, I think it's active again. You have 6 minutes. Okay, so if anybody, let's do this really quick. I'm dropping the link to the giveaway in the chat. This is still active right now and only for like now 5 more minutes. It's ending at 40 past the hour. So if you want one last chance to get your entries in, you can do that right now. And if you do these 3, it'll give you some more options. And I'm going to tell you the codes, and I will also show you where they were in the video, but I'll do that after the time runs out. So the first secret code is in the chat, and the second secret code is also in the chat. This is your last chance to get your entries in. And if you're watching live, then you get the benefit of the codes appearing. Okay. I can't promise I'm always going to do that because then people will just wait until the live. But you only have like 4 minutes now. So go ahead and do that. And then after this time runs out, we are going to announce, we're going to do the random drawing and announce the winners. Oh yeah, let me go pull up those videos because I was very pleased of where I hid those codes. Let's see, we've got the first one here, which was, it was when I was doing the demo of the microphone, it was a file name of a recording that I had previously done. So that's where that first one was. It was on the iPad screen, and I definitely wouldn't show up on a phone screen, so I hope you figured out that you had to watch it on a computer screen. But pretty clear there. It was just hiding as the file name of that recording. And then the second one was last week. I completely forgot to do it ahead of time and made it through the whole hour and a half, and then realized that I hadn't shown the code on screen yet. And then I had to make up an excuse to talk about something and then also sneak the code in there. So at the very end, I was like, oh, I'll talk about how I did the animated intro screen that you see, and because the code was then hiding on the multi-view, and it was the multi-view label for that animated spinner, and I had completely not shown the codes on the live stream until that point. Somehow, just completely spaced my mind to like show the multi-view at any point during the previous hour and a half. So I had to make up that excuse, but that was fun. I got to talk about how I made the little looping thing, which was also cool. Okay, we've got 2 minutes. 2 minutes left. Yeah, Chris says it was funny when you remembered. Yeah. I'm glad Bailey appreciates where I hid the codes. Jason's got them in there also. Excellent. Okay. Philip says, yes, it's all indeed interesting. I can't speak for everybody, but I always enjoy the behind the scenes stuff. Well, cool. And Chris also. Okay. And, oh, it's counting down from 2 minutes now. The file names of the raw material of the spinning YoloBox look like code, so I tried those at first. Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. Those are the, those were the just files off my camera. They are kind of the same format. I didn't mean for that to be, what's it called? The, red herring. That's the word. Yeah. Okay, we are 1 minute out. I'll talk about the MacBooks after the giveaway bit. Okay, here we go. 1 minute. It's counting down. I can see it. So, yeah, how we're gonna do this? We're gonna do the little random drawing, and I am gonna like hide my screen when I do that because I do actually double check that people didn't cheat when if they show up as the random winner, and I also don't want to show anybody's email address on the screen. So, okay, here we go. 10 seconds. I need like a, oh, I don't have like a countdown. I have a drum roll, but that'll be for the winner. Okay, it is done. It is ended. So let's go and go into my little back end here. Oh, I just got the email from it saying the competition ended. And winners. There are 2 winners, right? One winner gets the microphone. The other winner gets a lav mic from Comica. It's like a special edition. Draw winners. Here we go. 2 winners to draw for 2 prizes. And okay, before I announce this, I am going to double check that no one's cheated. That looks like a real person. That looks like a real person. I don't appreciate the fake emails, but these look great. And then we've got, yep. Wonderful. Okay, here we go. So, the first winner of the special edition Comica Lav mic. How can I put this on the screen? Here we go. the first winner is Thomas M from Australia. Gets the lav mic, and one more. Randy K is the winner of the Comica microphone. So what I will do is I will make sure that I get in touch with both of you to get shipping info and get those sent out as soon as we can. Congratulations, and thank you for playing. That was a lot of fun. Congrats. Wonderful. And, of course, thanks to Comica for sponsoring the giveaway, because that is how this all happens. And maybe we can do more of these in the future, because they're kind of fun. And I like hiding codes in interesting places. Okay, so back to the questions. Let's talk about the MacBooks. Bailey wants to know if I'm going to buy any of the new MacBooks. I was watching that stream because I was very, very curious what Apple's plans are. Can I get Apple to sponsor a giveaway of the new MacBook? I don't think I can get Apple to sponsor a giveaway for the new MacBook. I don't have a channel nearly big enough, nor do I talk about Apple MacBooks nearly enough. But so I bought the M1 Mac Mini for this desk a while ago, and that was because I wanted a computer that can just live here all the time, and I don't have to be moving a laptop back and forth and plugging it in and all that kind of stuff. That was a good decision. And again, the Mac Mini, the M1 Mac Mini, it's not the fastest machine in the world, but it's good enough, and it's running everything that I'm doing today. And that, so that just lives here now. And then I decided in June that because I had a couple of trips coming up, a couple of travel trips coming up, and a few more larger trips on the horizon, I did not want to lug my 16-inch MacBook Pro around anymore. And I was like, okay, I know they're going to announce laptops in the fall. That's what all the rumors are saying. However, I don't want to wait until then. So my plan was I'm going to get the cheapest possible laptop for travel. So what I did was I went and I got the MacBook Air in its cheapest configuration. So I got the base model, rose gold, of course, $1,000, 8 gigs of RAM, 256 solid state. And the reason I got the cheapest one was because I was like, yeah, it's not going to be the best. I could go for the fancier MacBook Air and upgrade the RAM and maybe not 2 terabytes, maybe 1 terabyte. That would be a nice boost, and that'd be a lot, it would probably last a lot longer. But that is significantly more expensive. And I was like, I'm probably going to want to buy a MacBook Pro in the fall when they come out. So I didn't really want to spend extra, especially if I'm going to be replacing that laptop soon anyway. So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to go with the base model and stick with just the cheapest one, spend $1,000 on it. And that way, if I replace it, I am not mad about having spent that. So I got that computer, and 8 gigs of RAM is not a lot. I haven't had a computer with that little RAM in a long time. And this is a small drive, and I cannot put video projects onto the internal drive because it's basically already full with everything else. And I've been using that computer, and it's fantastic. I love it. It is great. It's my main computer now. It does everything I need it to do, including I have actually been editing all of my videos on it. I have the because I do the ISO recording from an ATEM, it's recording to a solid state drive already, and those files are just recorded to the drive. I take that drive, I plug it into the laptop, and I edit right off of the drive. So it's very quick. I don't copy files around. There's no file management. Resolve just goes and grabs those files, and it plays off of the SSD. And it has been surprisingly good. like I really don't have any complaints about editing videos on the base model M1 MacBook Air. I was expecting it to feel a little bit slow now and then, but it's been fantastic. Now, I'm not doing 4K stuff, so I can't speak to that, but I am doing 1080 multicam, right? So I've got like usually 8 channels that I'm switching between and managing, and it's been great. So then the new MacBooks were announced, and I was like, cool, this is going to be fantastic. We're going to go and take a look at the configurations, and then everything they announced, I think they did a very good job with that announcement. Like the processors are great, the RAM options are great, the ports are great, really good. So I was like, cool, let's go see what it's going to cost. First of all, I know I don't want a 16-inch because that's too big, so I'm going to go with the 14. It turns out this is actually slightly larger than the 13, but not by much, but it is a tiny bit. And the price starts at $2,000. Okay, so I expect that for a Pro machine. But then you're like, okay, well, what upgrades should I get? And this is where it starts to add up, because if I'm going to spend that much on a computer, I need to make sure it's going to last a very long time. So then I was like, okay, well, probably should get the 32. It'd be really cool to get the 64 gigs of RAM too, because honestly, it's pretty affordable for, it's strangely one of the more affordable upgrades that they've ever had. And at that point, I'll probably get a terabyte so I can edit stuff off of the internal, or at least never have to think about storage again. So here we're already talking about 2600, and that's okay. But like, do I really want the cheapest processor? Because again, these are not upgradable, and this is going to have to last many years if I get this. So I was like, I should probably upgrade to maybe that one so I can get the more RAM. And now all of a sudden, this price is getting up there. And then I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm willing to spend that much on a computer. That just seems like a lot. And it's a lot of money to have in one package that is not replaceable. And then I just decided, no, like, you know what? My cheap computer is good enough. Maybe I will just wait it out another year and see what happens next year. So I am not planning on getting one. I'm not going to get a new Mac. I'm going to stick with my very cheap M1 Mac Mini, MacBook Air, and this Mac Mini in the studio. And they've been great. So I don't know. I can take that $3,500 and put it to something else, like more cameras or whatever next ATEM comes out. So that's my plan there. That is the plan. Yeah, most of the rumors of the Macs were very expensive. Cajoling Technology says, I use the M1 base Air as my main computer. I 100% agree. It does everything I need, even with basic 4K edits. That's awesome. Yep. Direct editing off the external hard drive is brilliant. Been a long time coming before computer edit software could do that adequately. Totally, and also drive speed and the drive speed and USB speeds. Like that's all been a huge improvement in the last couple of years, making that really possible. I would like a M1 Max 64 gig RAM Mac Mini. I agree. That would be cool. Oh, and then Chris asks if you didn't buy your Air. If I hadn't bought the Air, I don't know. I have a hard time spending that much on a computer at all, but I probably would have. But I would not have known that the Air was actually a viable option, because in the past, the Airs have always been extremely underpowered. And like I actually had the 12-inch. I had the 2 models of the 12-inch, and I actually returned one of them because it was so bad before they got the i7 chip in them. And it was, so yeah, their lowest end things have always been very low end, and it's like fine for internet browsing or whatever, and even some stuff. But the I wouldn't have expected this from the M1 Air, basically is what I'm trying to say. Like I would not have expected that, and the fact that I got it and I've tried it out and I've been very happy with it, that is great. I'd much rather spend more money on a Mac Mini that the battery isn't going to fail in a couple of years and not be replaceable. That's true. That is true. I'm planning on keeping a close eye on the refurbished page on the Apple Store website in the hopes that there will be some refurbished models showing up the next few months. Yeah, true. Bailey says, what about buying the new AirPods or the Apple HomePod? I don't think I need to upgrade my AirPods. They're fine. If the battery ends up wearing out on them, I probably will replace them with the new ones, but not jumping at the bit for it. And HomePod, I haven't ever had an Apple HomePod, so I don't really know what I would do with it. Next ATEM, maybe the ATEM Nano designed by Aaron Parker. Yeah, Parker. I hope so. That'd be fun. It'd be really fun. Didn't you have an old MacBook to trade in to reduce the price? No, and I don't like doing that because that's like the least amount you can get for a used laptop is going directly through Apple. So I actually did sell my old 13-inch Pro and for more than I would have got as a trade-in. And the 16-inch is not mine; it's a work laptop, and that it's still there. Like I still use it for work, but it's not my main laptop. I was just on a actually there's a while that I like didn't even have. I don't even remember what I was using. I still have a Windows computer too that I use for QuickBooks, but yeah, I don't know. I don't like going through the Apple's trading program just because it's the worst way to get the money for it. I have the same problem with my phone. Like I'm really struggling with the phone issue too, because like the new phones look great, and this is the XS, which is definitely showing its age, but it still works fine. And their trade-in was like $240 for it. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I would rather have this than $240, even if I am buying a new phone, because I can use them around the studio for things like either as an extra camera or just as control surfaces for stuff, like to control the cameras and whatever. So I don't go through Apple's trade-in. I either reuse the devices or give them to people or sell them. Cajoling Technology says, I got the iPhone 13 Pro and was not expecting how ProMotion adds to the experience. Yeah, don't tempt me. Don't tempt me, because I don't really need to buy one, but I do want the new cameras. Okay, that's enough nonsense about Apple. This is not an Apple channel. We don't talk about Apple here normally. I know it's probably never going to happen, but I'd love to see Apple and Blackmagic do a collab and put an M1 Pro into an ATEM for a 30-input super source or something. I doubt that would ever happen, but that would be awesome. Oh, this is why Bailey is up so early. I got a client shoot in an hour, and so just start pre-shoot checks. Good luck with the shoot, and thanks for tuning in. The Apple trade-ins are also not environmentally friendly compared to someone reusing the older device. The only thing better than electronics recycling is reuse and repair. Yep, definitely. The old iPhone can run as a mix effect control surface. Totally. There's so many good things to use the old iPhones for. Because honestly, like the XS, which is 3 years old, I think I got that one in 2018. It still is a fast device, and like the cameras are not nearly as good as the new cameras, but if you're not using them for camera stuff, they're still fine. So like, you know, I'm running this iPad for the audio, the mixer software on here, or I'll put mix effect on it, and then I've got like a little iPod up here for if I need to play music out on like work live streams or something. I haven't used that one in a while, but that one's got Keynote on it, so I can run slides off of that. And they're great just to like have these things around. So yep. Raphael says Apple has a price difference on storage while selling, but it pays the same regardless of storage size when trading in. Not fair. Interesting point. Yeah, a pretty big price difference on the storage when they sell them too. I feel like it's not really proportional to the cost. Anyway, that's enough Apple nonsense. Okay. Time to make your new ATEM wishlist video. Year end is coming. You know, I think they still haven't. I think I'm gonna stick with the Nano for my wish list for the year because I still think that would be a useful device. And oh, this would actually be a good time to talk about something else I've been brainstorming. Let me see if I can find this link. The or what's the page? There it is. So I'm gonna drop this link into the chat and feel free to load this up. Hopefully it works for you. I've heard some people have issues in certain browsers, but this is something I have been scheming for a while, and I should go click on that message so that it shows up in the timestamps. This is something I've been scheming for a while, and the idea is it's a tiny presentation switcher specifically for presentations. So it has, this is like a mock-up of the buttons that it would have and like what it shows. The idea is that I want to be able to, both in person events and in myself here, give presentations, do presentations with like slides and a person presenting and like a still graphic for the logo of the event without having to bring a whole bunch of gear and have a complicated setup. The YoloBox can do a lot of this stuff, but the YoloBox also does way more than it needs to. So I'm hoping for this is something that's like scaled down compared to most devices. So the idea here is that you would have 2 HDMI ins and then a graphic, and that's what you can switch between. So you have your person presenting, you have the slides, and then a still graphic for like the logo, so you can do that before the show starts or whatever. But then the special thing that does not exist on any current gear except the ATEM Mini Extreme and the YoloBox is this mode. And this is special because this is a full 16:9 scaled down version of the slides, which you don't want to crop the slides ever, but the person's face you can crop. So the idea here would be that it crops HDMI 1, HDMI 2 is only scaled, and then if you want to change how big these are, you would get a knob or a slider to be able to change from full side by side, where you don't crop either of them, to cropping the person's video down to like, you know, almost nothing. So if you're doing like this kind of shot where it's you know, it's just one person kind of close to the camera, you can do that. But if they're like on a stage and they're full height standing, you could even go narrower to make the slides bigger. And then you'd switch between these 3 layouts during the show. And this would be how you're switching the show, you know, full screen slides if there's super detailed text on the screen or a diagram or something. Most of the time you'd have it like this. Also notice there's a background graphic, which is not the same as this. That's also important. So there's 2 graphics loaded in. There's the one for the cover and there's the one for the background. And that's it. And this would just be how it works, and there'd be nothing else to it. So it's not flexible. It does not let you do everything the ATEM can do. It does not let you do everything the YoloBox can do. It is much more special purpose. So here is where I talk about it. The 2 main use cases, you would be able to, oh yeah, and then the outputs. This is the other trick. So the outputs would be pass through of the camera, pass through of the slides, HDMI of the program mix, and then your USB-C would be either switchable between the program or the HDMI 1. This is key because for Zoom, you want Zoom to have the person's face full screen in the camera input. And then you'd screen share your computer screen into Zoom and run a monitor out from that into this device. So for that mode, you would have USB-C set to HDMI. If you wanted to do USB-C into like something where you're streaming to a streaming platform, you'd set the program out so it switches between everything. But this way you could use it with Zoom. And then the pass-throughs are here so that you could either send HDMI 2 out to a projector in the room. So if you're doing an in-person event, you would be able to have the presenter's laptop plugged into this device. HDMI 2 out would be sent to the projector in the room. That way it's always showing the slides and you'd be able to mix the show on the device. HDMI 1 pass-through, I don't remember if I have a reason for that, but at this point you might as well just do that. So This is internal memory has a capture button. So the quickest way to load graphics into this would be to put it full screen on your computer, hit the capture button, store it. Kind of like you can do with the ATEM, where you have that capture button in the ATEM software, and whatever's in program, it'll capture. So you would work like that, and you have 2 slots for the images. One is used for the background of the side-by-side, and one is used as just over top of everything. So this is kind of what I've created is like, here's what you'd have to do, the internal circuitry of it. This is inspired by the block diagrams I see in all the Roland switchers. So your 2 inputs, camera and computer, and then this layout engine is like, there's a lot of magic going on in here that I didn't describe, but this is basically the thing that does the side-by-side layout and with the background. So this lets you HDMI. Let's see. This is your USB-C switcher. So the USB-C can switch between camera 1 or the sort of program mix. This ends up being the program out here, and then the HDMI out is switchable between all 4, right? So you're either your camera, your computer pass through, or the still image, or the program mix, or the side-by-side mix. And that's how you get the HDMI out, and then the 2 pass-throughs. So that's the idea here. I've written this whole thing up, and the reason I put it on a web page here, and I've been sharing the link, I've actually been sending it to various companies, being like, hey, I think this would be cool. You should make this because I think people would buy it. And it would be, I've sent it to, I probably shouldn't actually name them. I've sent it to several companies who I've been working with in the past. And I know that they are sharing it around internally, and I have not yet got any feedback as to whether anybody is working on it. But if you would buy it, let me know right now in the chat, because this will be a good example to send to them as well about what the kind of market would be. It could be the ATEM Nano. I would be very happy if this was the ATEM Nano. Chris would buy it. Yep. And Eric says minimum viable switcher sounds good. Side by side. Yep. Chris loves the idea. Philip loves the idea. Awesome. Looks like a big efficiency, productivity increase, skip scrolling and digging through menus or macros to template the presentation. Yeah. Cool. Okay. And Hans would, of course, buy 2 of them. Excellent. Could you add a slightly larger media pool so you can have one still for the pre and one different for the post? Probably a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. I feel like maybe at the point that there is a media pool, it's not that much extra work to add another slot. So that'd be great. Great. Another one. Graham says I'd buy it if I didn't already have 2 ATEMs. Yep. More good. Excellent. More support for this. Definitely would buy it for my work. Cool. Maybe another additional camera angle. Maybe. I'm really on the fence about this because I do want it to be small and affordable. And the main use case, again, is not what you would use a full ATEM for. It's specifically for like presentations and conferences. The one reason I could see adding one more camera angle is to be able to frame a close-up shot of the presenter and have a second camera that is like a wide shot of the stage or the room, and have that as a fallback shot, because I have used that kind of switching in the past before. And that way you're not just switching between full screen of the presenter and the slides and the side-by-side. You would also get a wide shot. I think that would be a possible good addition to it, but I would be happy even if it only had the 2. It sounds like something I could give to my parents and they can figure it out based on its simplicity. Yeah, exactly. So this is the idea, is that it's meant to just be super, super simple. Yeah, for clients, college installs is another great example of like, you do not want to provide them with all of the buttons on the ATEM or all of the software control of software solutions like OBS or Ecamm, or even the Epiphan is like a little bit too much to do to train people on. So it's for just the dead simple, like, you cannot do anything wrong once you set it up. kits for remote people, especially, would be a good one too. Another camera angle for a top view of a demo of a product. Okay, so that's another good use of a second camera input. So I could be convinced to do 2 camera inputs plus the computer input. Touch screen like a YoloBox or an external monitor. I'm not sure, actually. I think this is something where whoever picks up this idea and makes it has the ability to sort of put their own design on it. I don't know if I want it to be a touchscreen device or if I want it to be more like an ATEM with just physical buttons. There are advantages to both. So I could see arguments for both, and I don't know which one is necessarily better. At work, it might stop people pressing the wrong button on the Stream Deck. Yeah, exactly. I know Epiphan tries to market to this segment. The price is really steep for that amount of simplifying they provide. Yeah, the Epiphan Pearl Nano is the first one that's like even remotely affordable, in my opinion. And it's not cheap, but it is reasonable for what it does. But it's actually like, it's targeting a slightly different use case even than this, because they're really going for the install somewhere and like either completely remote operated from someone in a different, city, running remote presentations, or it is just installed and all you do is start and stop and you only get the one layout. The Epiphan isn't really like, it's not really a switcher. It's not really meant to switch between the angles that often, even though you can. But it's more just like you're going to set up your scene and stream that into either as a remote contribution thing into a larger system, or you're going to have it just like dump recordings onto a file server somewhere of all the lectures happening in a room. Any audio inputs? Yeah, I hadn't put too much thought into the audio side of it. Let me see. I think I took that diagram out. I had some ideas there. It would definitely need some sort of audio input. But I don't know if it makes sense to do that as like dual XLR in or 1/4 inch or something for plugging into venue mixers. I don't think it should have a full audio mixer in it the way that the ATEM does, because again, it needs to be just super simple. But you do need some microphone input ability for sure. I could see having like even a input for like a wireless mic pack, and then being able to pass that out into a venue mixer for the room amplification if you're doing that kind of thing. Maybe also add a second USB-C output for recording, like an ATEM. Maybe. That's definitely a possibility for. That could definitely be useful. I think as soon as you add recording, it adds a lot of additional steps to both what it takes to build internally, but also using it. So I'm on the fence about whether it should have a record function or a stream function, actually, for that matter. I don't know if it should actually be something that streams to YouTube, or if it's really just for outputting into other things that would do the streaming. I could be convinced either way. As we're seeing, it is possible to do streaming and recording at relatively affordable prices. So maybe it does make sense to bundle it all in. Why not make a small interface box, no buttons, perhaps some app to control? I don't think an app control is a good idea for this, actually. And one of the reasons is because because this is meant to be usable by anybody to just drop in. Like I could imagine putting this in a conference room at an office, for example, where you're like, I need to record a presentation for our, either internal presentation or something that's going to go on our work YouTube, of just like a live demo of a product or something. As soon as you make stuff app controlled, people then have to download the app. There's going to be some sort of pairing process, which is going to be slow and annoying. I've never seen a good one. And all of that is just like added friction. So this needs to be the kind of thing where you just walk up, plug in stuff. There's very clear buttons of what they're going to do on the device, and that's it. And yeah, Chris is right. It needs to say simple for the cost, because if you add too much, it's going to increase the cost very quickly. So that would be like, yeah, if you add a streaming encoder and a hard drive, now you have to also create an interface to configure the streaming encoder, for example, which is not trivial. And oh, thanks, Eric. Thanks for the super chat. PK1 mini presentation switcher. Yes, I would buy one. Love it. I am not going to be producing electronic devices anytime soon. That is a whole thing. But I would be happy to put the name on it if someone wanted to make one. Thanks for the super chat too. Appreciate it. I think the more people that show that they're interested in this kind of thing, the more these companies may actually be wanting to make one, because sometimes they don't really understand the actual problems that we have because they're not engrossed in producing the content. They're, making hardware, which is, I'm not going to go and solder this up and find how to source HDMI controller chips. That's not anything I can do. But I can tell you what people would use. All of us have our wallets out ready to pay for it. How about ATEM Nano with built-in streaming bridge and Bird Dog Play? Ooh, that's getting to be too much. That's a lot. In and out of no, can't pack too much into this. I would love for it to be able to stream. It would help a lot, especially with a streaming bridge. I know that's the one thing. Well, that's why I put that in my ATEM Nano wish list. Is if the ATEM Nano can stream to a streaming bridge, it makes a ton of sense as a remote contribution thing for the ATEM workflow of you ship out the ATEM Nano to someone, it's got the streaming encoder in it, and they can push the video feed back. The children pastor who's hosting the children's church with my help would love this too. Awesome. Yeah, fantastic use case. The addition of the extra input would be great because of all the conferences I've done, the audience usually has a question or some kind of participation. Okay, I'm getting more convinced that another input would be good. So that's, honestly, this is actually looking very, very similar to the YoloBox Pro. But again, it needs to be even more trimmed down and it needs to do less. So it needs to have fewer options and fewer ways to mess up. Smash that like button, helps the algorithms. Absolutely. I think jacks over XLR. Anyone needing to connect a mixer should be able to adapt, but for conferences and classroom, jacks are easy to understand. Interesting. However, there was, Graham said XLR rather than jacks. Definitely some differing opinions here. I think one USB for webcam out and second for recording would be enough. Probably wouldn't need direct RTMP, nor would it need ISO recording. I think that's where I'm at with this too. I can see that the recording would be useful because that's going to be a very common use of it, is you need to record something and then upload it later or edit it later. And not needing to pull out a whole different device to do the HDMI recording would be useful. Dan asks, am I using vMix for this today? Nope. I am using my extremely over-engineered streaming desk for this with an ATEM Extreme, a Stream Deck, my mixer control, and screens everywhere. Having watched you build out the Seattle Mini Studio, I understand the need for this device. There is a market segment, totally. Yeah, I think that was definitely part of it, of watching all of my coworkers need to go, record these sessions for the events we're doing, and actually having the, also having done a lot of recording of events myself, where you should have seen some of the kits I was assembling before the ATEM stuff came along, ATEM Minis came along, but it takes a lot, and most of the time you can't even get that sort of side-by-side layout with these devices. So the it's the merging of those two different things I've had a lot of experience with. Dan says, thanks, I've seen the super chat animation with the vMix user, so that's why I asked. Oh, cool. Yeah, the super chat animation is the browser extension that I made, so it's very possible that they were using the same one and just have it loaded into vMix. I'm using it on in OBS out of a Ultra Studio, which is how it routes into my video system, but you could definitely bring it up in vMix too. Do you think Blackmagic will make a 4-input ATEM with super source, basically a cheaper extreme? I know, yeah. Like the super source is what makes that kind of layout possible. But right now the super source is very complicated to configure, which is why Mix Effect has helped make that a lot easier to deal with. But having that in a 4-input ATEM, I don't know. It's already like mind-boggling that they were able to put it into the extreme at that price, because it was historically in the much more expensive ATEMs. So I don't know. Yeah, why is Blackmagic so against power buttons? I think that because they expect people to like until the ATEM Mini, all of their stuff was rack mounted like in studios where it just is on, or like there's no, you don't shut stuff down at that point really. So I don't think they really expected. I think they didn't realize that the home and office users would like to shut their stuff down. I do not know any Polish. Sorry, Merson. Graham says, I had a stream fail recently because someone accidentally pulled a jack plug out of the ATEM. Oh, interesting. Yeah. I guess the XLRs can lock in, huh? Streaming out, program out, and USB out if you need to input onto Zoom. Yeah, so the USB definitely needs to be switchable between either program or the camera. Why not sell a cheap full-featured YoloBox with pay-to-unlock features? I suspect because most of the cost of the YoloBox is the hardware. I mean, it's basically like a fancy phone, and the YoloBox Pro is $1,300, which is actually cheaper than the iPhone Pro. So, and the iPhone Pro does not have HDMI inputs. Oh, create a novice user mode in YoloBox. It's true. YoloBox Pro could create a alternate software app on the same hardware that does most of this stuff, and that's one path to get there. I do think the cost, I think $1,300 is a little bit too much for this. I think it would need to be more like $600, and that's based on my experience of how much people in the market I'm thinking of are willing to pay for ATEMs. They can justify a $600 expense on, to the company, and I think it would be a lot harder for them to argue for something that's $1,300. Yeah, the cost is in the construction, not the licensing. However, there are features like NDI, which would be cool. Yeah, I think that I'm pretty sure the YoloBox doesn't include any software that requires them to buy licenses from other people, whereas that's not the case for other products. I don't know if they have to pay the HDMI license for the ports or not, but yeah, it is just a lot of hardware going into those things. I agree that this device would be great, not for those of us who are technical enough to produce shows like this using the more complex system, but for those people we work for, so that they can run simple presentations like this themselves without needing our assistance. Yes, exactly. So not to take away work from all of us who have amazing setups and amazing abilities to do these things, but I think there's just a lot of people who are not going to hire out for projects and would benefit from being able to do a lot of that stuff themselves. Or it's the kind of thing that you go and you set this up for a school or a church or an office, and you can actually walk away from it and not have to be there every time they want to do a recording. I saw a video of the tech people for university teaching professors how to use the transparent board. This could very much simplify that process. Oh yeah, the transparent board thing is very cool. I've always wanted to try that. Having balanced XLR mono and unbalanced 1/8 inch would cover integrating to most house sound systems. I agree. I think so. And the other thing the 1/8" Mini would do is work with all the wireless mic systems that are coming out. You could forgo the computer's HDMI in and have built-in USB HDMI adapter, since many laptops use those anyway for lack of ports. Ooh, I don't know if I like that idea, but that is true. That is an interesting idea. Have that thing do the USB video thing that a lot of computers support. I feel like that's less reliable, but that's an interesting one. Graham says, I agree. I keep getting called by the church on Sunday morning when I want to stay in bed. Or like today when I was running a 10K race. Congrats on running a 10K race. It's been a while since I've done that. Yeah, totally. I think there's a market for it. I'd rather XLR for balanced audio. Unbalanced always gets you exactly at the wrong time. Multi-XLR jack sockets work well for options too. Cool. Yeah. And yeah, so I didn't put any thought into or I didn't make any notes in this about the physical design of it, because I do think there is some room for experimenting there. And if multiple different companies do end up making something like this, I'd be happy. And they probably have very different takes on it. So, but I do think it should be small. I do think it needs to be no bigger than an ATEM Mini, for example. That would be probably the biggest I would want it to be, because it needs to be something that can be on a desk and be very, not in your face. I was watching your video this afternoon from a year and a half ago when you were still sitting in the hall. A lot has changed in that time. Sitting in the hall? Wait, what hall? What was a year and a half ago? That would have been when I started doing live streams. I think I started this just a year and a half ago, almost exactly now. Curtis Judd canceled his stream today due to ATEM problems. Oh no! Well, that's a bummer. If I'm happy to help troubleshoot, Curtis, if you happen to be popping back here. Tripod mount? Maybe. I have a feeling it's probably more of a desk device, but I could see the tripod mount option for wanting to use it for conferences and stuff. Oh, maybe when I was building the studio. Yes, that is probably true. When I was building the studio, the walls were not done, so it looked like a very different space in here. That was, yeah, it was an adventure. Oh, and then I had that one stream that I had to do from upstairs when this was getting torn up for the floor getting installed. Yep. The new switcher is something that fits into a new PK stand. I will definitely make a stand for this if this ends up coming out. YoloLive would benefit massively in usability if they included an equivalent of ATEM software control. The ability to manipulate lower thirds and upload assets would be fantastic. True, and I also think OSC control. So software control would be one thing where it's like a computer app designed to talk to it, but I think before I would encourage them to go down that road, because that's essentially a whole nother product to manage. Kind of two different products to manage because of different platforms. I think before that, I would recommend that they add OSC control, because then we could go into Companion and make Companion interfaces for a Stream Deck to be able to do things. So you could then sort of program a show out on your Companion buttons the way that I do here, of having very specialized sequences of things that happen on a certain button press, and people could then do that to control the YoloBox, which would be, I think, very cool. So if you do want to see OSC support in YoloBox, also comment below, because the more support they see for features, the more stuff they will add. Do you think Blackmagic is going to upgrade the ATEM Production Studio 4K, or is the 8K replacing it? I think the 8K is too expensive to replace it, and I am still holding out hope, and I was hoping that we would see it this month at NAB, but it did not happen because the event was canceled. But I'm hoping that these are getting bumped this year, And I think we're going to end up seeing some of the extreme features in these form factors. It'll be like mini constellations kind of thing. So I think that's what we're going to see, because $10,000 is a lot. Like that's a lot. And I think that like a $2,500 thing is probably it's probably what I'm going to end up buying, is something around that price. And there's a lot of things that they did in the Constellation and in the Extreme that would make a ton of sense in that rack mount form factor. So I'm still holding out hope for that before the end of the year. Yep, API would be first, totally, for the YoloBox. Once they did the OSC API, then they could just make a software control app for it, or somebody else could do it. Like the Mix Effect app. Maybe he could make a version of that for the YoloBox, for example. That'd be cool. Is your Companion running on a Raspberry Pi? It is. I have that on a dedicated Pi that runs Companion. It actually also runs my Nginx RTMP server, but I don't use that super often. But they're both on that same Pi, and that's what is on this. This is connected to the Pi, and that way it's just always on, even if the computer goes to sleep, or if I have to restart the computer, this thing is just always running. Okay, we've made it to the end of the questions, I think. I'm sure Adam would love to make that for the YoloBox. I'm not sure if he would, but it would definitely be doable. And he would be the one to do it, because he did a fantastic job with Mix Effect. Do you know anything cheap for streaming HDMI to YouTube or remote studio, HDMI input, and USB tethering via a phone? Something small. The Epiphan Webcaster was like the cheapest little thing for that, but that's discontinued. There are a bunch of little like RTMP encoders with HDMI ports that are very small, and a lot of those are like network controlled, so they don't have like buttons, but that's an option if you want something very small. But HDMI input and tethering data to a phone, I don't know. Honestly, like, I wish there was a way to get HDMI inputs into the iPhone, because it would be so good for that kind of thing. There is that one Android phone that has HDMI in, but it's like a $1,500 phone, so I don't know if that's really practical either. Neil asks, have you seen the Atomos Ninja Cast? Any thoughts? I did see that. I have not played with it, obviously. But yeah, this is the little thing that you add to the bottom of your Ninja 5, and it turns into like a video switcher. I will say my initial thoughts are it looks like a great way to turn that into an ATEM Mini, but it doesn't do much. I'm looking for the side view, because that's my least favorite thing about it. Where is their side view of it? Does picture-in-picture. All their views are top down, which looks great, right? Until you realize that, oh my gosh, they don't even show a picture of it on this website. You can kind of tell here. Do you see how it's kind of like, it's a whole chunk below, right? It's like not at the same level. And this actually is like, it looks like it's about that tall. It looks huge. And I don't like that form factor. I don't think it's a good form factor. It looks weird. It's like huge compared to the keyboard. I don't know. That's my initial thoughts. I'm holding out judgment until I actually get to try one, but did not catch my eye. Philip asks, curious what everyone's expected price point or range will be for this hypothetical device. I'm also curious. Let me know in the chat right now. Put it in right now. I did kind of anger people already with it. Sorry about that. But ignore my comment if you heard that. Because I am curious what people would be willing to pay for something like this. And let's assume that it does have 2 camera ins and 1 computer in. So 3 HDMI ins. Scott says 400 to 500. Okay. What else have we got? Digital Creation says they should have angled it. Yeah, they needed a shot with the side view, but I guess it's because it doesn't look good from the side. Emmanuel says 400. I think yeah, $600, so more than the ATEM Mini and less than the Extreme. Yep. I think that's a reasonable range, 400 to 600. Yeah, and like again, it is okay if it's okay if it does not do everything. Like it does not need to do everything an ATEM Mini can do. Oh, Digital Creations meant the screen device should be angled. Exactly. Yeah, like if you're gonna make it a giant chunk, then you should also tip the screen up. I 100% agree with that. $400 to 600. It's looking like people are settling around that range. I would use icons instead of numbers for the inputs so the general user knows what's what. Yeah, totally. So like a camera icon and then like a computer icon instead of 1, 2, and 3. An icon representing the side-by-side layout, things like that. Philip says 300 to 400, around the same price or slightly more than the basic ATEM Mini, but slightly cheaper than the Pro. So yeah, under the Pro and more than the basic ATEM Mini. And again, it is a special purpose device. It is not meant to be an all-in-one do everything, and that is okay. So cool. Okay, well, I'm glad people are interested in that. Feel free to share that link around with people, because, and what I should do is now add a link to this live stream segment at that link so that people can find us talking about it. And I think it'd be really interesting to see. So again, I've sent it to some people who I've worked with in the past to see if they're interested in making this. But the more feedback, the better, and the more interest that is demonstrated that there is actually a market for this, the more likely they are to actually go and do something like this. Cool. Okay. Was there anything else I wanted to get to before we wrap up? We've got we've got one more week of pre-orders for the YoloBox stands. So again, that link for those is here, and one more week of pre-orders. So those are going starting to ship starting on Monday next week, and you can order them from 4 different places. Check the shipping. If you're not in the US, check the shipping from Europe first. That's probably the one that's going to give you the best rate, unless you're in this region, and then they will probably get a better rate here. If you're somewhere in between the two, definitely check both of them and see what gives you better shipping. And if you're in the US, then either of these are perfectly fine places to get them as well. I believe PepperTech ships to Canada is cheaper than Europe shipping to Canada, and I don't think DVE Store sells into Canada, so that's the Canada option. I hope I got that right. I should probably write this down or something on the webpage so I remember what I'm supposed to say. Anyway, yeah, wonderful. Okay, thank you for all the questions. I think we are going to wrap up here, and oh, did I say I was going to do something live? I did say I was going to do something live. Oh, update Resolve. Should we do that? Philip says, on a related but somewhat tangential note, I'd love to see Blackmagic come out with an ATEM Mini Pro 2 with Super Source. Maybe also a second HDMI and or second USB out. I know, the ATEM Mini, I mean, this was basically what I put in my like wish list video a long time ago, right? Of I do want the 2 outs. I do want the 2 USBs. I didn't know I needed 8 inputs, but I appreciate that I have them. But even a 4-input version of that would still be super useful. Super source is the key, though, because you can do so much cool stuff with that, for sure. All right. I'm going to update Resolve later. I don't think that's actually going to be interesting to watch. So I'll let you know later if that fixes my problems with rendering, because that was a really weird bug and very frustrating. And maybe next week I will plan ahead a little bit more so I'm not scrambling half hour before the show to get some new effect going. Oh yeah, next week is Halloween. So keep that in mind. I would say you should wear a costume, but we can't actually see you, so I wouldn't know if anybody's wearing a costume. But we'll see. Next week is Halloween. That'll be fun. Okay, thank you all for joining. That was a show. That was something. The thank you for the super chats. Thank you for all the questions. And yeah, as always, be back here next week, same time, same place, and should be a fun one on Halloween. And who knows what will happen. And yeah, check out links just in the description below. I always collect the links from that drop into the chat into the description box, so anything is referenced there. Please share that link around to the mini presentation switcher. I think that'll be a useful thing for people. And if you would buy that, comment below. Now that the stream is done, comment below, and the more support we get for that, the better. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining, and I will see you all again next week.